Almost 40 years ago, my next guest formed a band in Mount Temple School on Dublin's north side. Oh yes, and back then they were consumed by a passion for music. They were fueled by self-belief and driven by their motivation to be the best band in the world. And it would appear that little has changed in those years, apart from the fact that since then they have sold almost 150 million albums. And they've picked up more Grammy Awards than any other band in history, which is about 22 at the last count, and pretty much set the bar for every rock band in the past quarter of a century. The new album has seen them going back to their roots, from Cedarwood Road to the top of the world and back again, from the biggest band in the world, which we welcome home, ladies and gentlemen, from U2, Bono and The Edge! Gentlemen, welcome to the Late Late Show.
Thanks, Ryan.
No strangers to this place, really, down through the years when you think of it, but here we are.
Here we are.
Busy days for you. I mean, I was thinking about you all week, obviously, for all the right reasons, and the album is all about home and back to basics, I suppose. And you come in here now after spending the last 2 weeks or plus touring the world, talking about the album. Does it feel different to be back in Dublin, back in Ireland? Do you like coming home?
Of course. It feels totally different. It's a strange feeling when the plane comes down and you see the lights of Dublin. It's a really lovely feeling. And this show particularly it's one of those things. Growing up, it's so quintessential to Ireland. It's like Barry's Tea or the Late Late Show. You know? It's just one of those things.
Nice one.
It's such a chore talking about yourself, really. You think about just...
You hate doing that, Bono, do you?
The strain, you know. Going, you know, we've been everywhere. We've been to Italy, France, Miami, London, London. And this just feels really, really just great.
Well, it's good to have you.
Really, really great. Listen to that.
That's great. So, first things first, regarding the album, did you really live together when you were recording this album, or did you flit away at the end of the day?
No, funnily enough, obviously we worked together, but we haven't lived together for years and years and years. But on this album, we did. Yeah, we in London, we had a house. Made the mistake of having The Edge over me. And,
in the bunk bed above you?
Not quite. The room above.
Oh, the room above.
Okay. Which is mental because he doesn't go to sleep and he just plays the same chord sequence over and over again. You bang the ceiling. When Adam was staying with us, you have to see. I get up early in the morning and he gets up early in the morning, and I just go and I'd see him. He'd be there in a cup of tea and his silk dressing gown. You just hope it wasn't open. And he'd, hello, good morning, Bono. And Larry would be asleep in the swimming pool. You know, whatever. You know, it really was interesting because I guess we could have really got on each other's nerves, and it could have turned out very different. But we actually had a lot of fun. In London, we went out, and actually, there was one night where the four of us were out. There was a bunch of people, some of them musicians, and one of them, the daughter of a very famous musician, Stella McCartney. And she said, but the four of you are here.
Yeah.
And you're hanging out together. We said, yeah. And then we realised that her experience of a band, of course, that had split up, was very different. So look, we're lucky. We're stuck with each other.
You are, but you know, you talk about Stella McCartney and Paul McCartney and the Beatles, who had that extraordinary output in a limited amount of time, and then they broke up acrimoniously. They become friends ultimately, but you guys just kept it going, kept the show on the road. I've heard you talking in recent times about being a gang that just stayed glued together. What are you making that face for?
I mean, that's the thing about a band. You get together at age 17, 18. You all decide you want to do the same thing, which is make music together, and then the years go by, but actually you kind of still maintain that same dynamic, and it's remarkable, not so much what's changed over the years, but how little has changed over the years. You know, when we get into the studio, it still feels like we're making our first album. It's that same sort of intensity, and combined with ambition and a bit of desperation as well. You really want to just give it your best, and nothing really much has changed over the years.
And what is it about keeping the gang together without driving each other nuts? I mean, I presume we get on each other's nerves on occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I might get on their nerves, and I would understand that. I would say that rather the way I feel about my relationship is that, you know, I feel like half a person without my partner, without Ali, and as an artist, I feel like a quarter of a person. And I mean, I really mean that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I really need the other three, and so I just don't let them go. I'm sure they've wanted on numerous occasions to get out of this. Larry was saying it's like the priesthood, like it's just, you know, or the Cosa Nostra, it's like the mafia. You only get out in a box.
So going back to the album and how it seems to just be about going home. I mean, we talked about homecoming here tonight, but particularly where you went back to the old school, back to the old haunts, back to the old loves, the old first-time experiences. Is it more about Paul and Dave rather than Bono and The Edge? Would that be a fair assessment?
Well, it's partly that. You know, we decided this was the moment when we could start to look back in a way we never had before.
Yeah.
And I think it's the distance of time gives you that objectivity and the insight that you probably wouldn't have had when you were 18 to even approach some of those subjects. So it just felt like the right moment.
Yeah.
And then once Bono got going with the lyrics, it was like a bit of a floodgate opened, and in just of inspiration, just so much stuff was being brought to the surface that was really exciting. You know, as a songwriter, I was like, wow, this is really interesting work. And so
Edge was worried, and understandably, that the kind of autobiographical nature of things could get very self-indulgent, and you end up in the first person, and how many people are interested in that.
Yeah.
And it turns out that everybody has a street they grew up on, and everybody has their first gig, you know, that they went to, the first time they fell in love or fell out of love or whatever it is, you know, these, things that happen to you as kids. They're very strong, you know, a close friend, you know, the song called Cedarwood Road, which is dedicated to my mate Googie, who I met when I was 3.
Yeah.
And he's still a best friend. And I think everybody has those experiences, and that's perhaps why people are taking this album into their heart, because we can get a little esoteric on your ass, and we know that. And so this one is just, it's kind of simple stuff.
So it was a conscious decision to kind of go away from all those esoteric times and albums and say, no, strip it down. Let's go back to the old road we lived on, the old school we went to, our first loves.
And watch out for sentimentality, because that's against the law. The melancholy thing, got to be a little, watch out for that. Yeah. Nostalgia, again, it's a thing of the past. But, you know, you just, you watch out for that. And the way we dealt with that was by being tough.
Yeah.
Because they're not all great memories. When you open up the box, there's things that made you an artist that are not all fun and frolics.
Yeah, because you've sung about your mum before, and you've given the song named after her in this album, Iris, and I get the impression that this is different to any other time you've written about your mum, that this is a more raw experience, visceral almost. Yeah, it's interesting because it's not very punk rock to sing about your mother, and I regretted it. Why?
And a week after the album was finished, we were going up to release the album up to Apple, and I woke up a couple of days before, and I was like, oh, wish I hadn't done that. It's, you know, and there's our memories. I don't have very many memories of my mother, and I put them in the song, and I just thought, oh, it's very raw. And the melody's beautiful melody, but it's like, ugh. And I was thinking, when was that? Why am I still dealing with that? And it's 40 years ago. Wow, 40 years ago. And when was it? September. 40 years ago. This is September. What date might it have been? So I texted my brother, Norman, and he didn't know when my mother had... She actually was at her father's gravesite as he was being lowered into the ground. She had an aneurysm. And anyway,
and you
he didn't
you were 14,
know.
were you?
Yeah, I was 14. He didn't know. He texted our Uncle Jack, who then texted him back, and then texted me back. 8th of September was her collapse. It was the 8th of September. And a couple of days later, her spirit left us, and that was when we were putting that song out into the universe on Apple. And I just thought, what a blessing that is. And, you know, whether you believe in that kind of stuff or not, and I'm a little, actually, I'd be a little unnerved if I thought my mother was looking down at me all the time after all the shit I've pulled over the years. But still, it was a blessing.
I'm just curious, Bono, as to why you got all queasy about, that thing you were doing, as describing writing this sincere song. Were you concerned about people's reaction or your own feelings about writing it?
It's...
Why all that?
The macho bit. I don't know, you've got to be... I don't know, it's like, as I say, it's... Yeah, you're exposing yourself. I mean, this is what singers do, and I can always think of the singers that inspired us, like John Lennon, and he would always expose himself, or Kurt Cobain, or whatever, but sometimes you just think, why do you do that to yourself?
Sure, you can think of the beautiful song Julia on the White Album.
Well, exactly.
Let's talk about that. I mean, if you want to talk about exposing yourself, about a beautiful song, as you've done with Iris. Ed, your mother, can I talk about your mum for a minute?
Sure, yeah.
Was she a roadie with the band at one point?
That's
is that a true story?
No, that's absolutely true. My mum was an extraordinary lady, and Welsh, as my dad is, and was very supportive. Really supportive of us at 16 years old, you know, with the band. And she had a little orange Beetle car.
Great.
And we would twist her arm and persuade her to run us around to gigs. And we'd stuff the little car with all the equipment. We'd have a roof rack, and there'd be an amp on the top, but the bass drum would be on the passenger seat. And none of us could fit in the car, so she would be there driving, and she could only get into first and second gear. There was no third or fourth gear because there was no space with the bass drum. And then later on, when we were starting to do gigs in town, we had on this great scheme where we would get old wallpaper, and we'd unroll it in the back garden, and we'd paint a huge U2 playing at McGonagall's or whatever it was, and slogans, and then we'd bring it back into the car, and we'd go out on raids at like 11 o'clock. Yeah. And my mum would be driving the getaway car, basically, and we'd have all the paper paste would be coming out. We'd have these huge, big signs up. So she was amazing and really, really supportive. And I'm thinking back now, thinking, wow, you know, that was so remarkable to have that much faith in a bunch of kids, really, and what we were up to.
So when Bono's singing about his mother and the lyric is Iris and what have you, are the whole band thinking about your parents here and sharing that experience, or is it just specific to Bono?
Well, I think there's a lot of shared experiences that are covered on the album. I mean, that particular song, Iris, is so personal to Bono. And we were all there in the studio watching the lyric come together and going through some of what Bono was describing. You know, have we gone too far? Is it too sentimental? Is it hard? Is it accurate and honest? Yeah. And I mean, there were a lot of dewy eyes in the studios. He was singing those lyrics because it's so powerful. It's so personal. And I think, you know, once he'd got the vocal, I had no doubts about it anymore. I just thought, whoa, this is the real deal. This is powerful stuff.
You mentioned, Bono, that you're a quarter of this, and yet you're half of you and Ali.
Right.
Ali obviously comes into your mind in this album as well. And did you have the same level of unmanliness, if you like, about exposing your feelings towards her? You've written about her many times, but on this album, where were you coming from? Back to basics again? Back to the beginnings?
Well, you know, I went out started going out with Ali the week I joined U2. So that was a very good week. And
I can see that picture we have.
There she is.
How about that?
And it was just first cut is the deepest, as Rod Stewart sings. I just trying to write a song about that and bring myself back to understand our own motivations, my own motivations. Like, you see, grief is followed by two things with me. Rage. I have a lot of it. And, but I found punk rock where I could put that rage, turn it into music. And that's what saved me. Literally, I'm sure it saved my life because I had a lot of rage.
What were you raging against?
I still have a lot of rage. You know...
against what?
When you're a kid, it's inchoate. You don't know what it is. And funnily enough, it's all rock and rollers are like this. Like, I mean, a lot of rock and rollers are like this.
Yeah.
The abandonment of the mother.
Yeah.
You know, John Lennon. A kid thinks it's their fault, or, you know... And whereas in hip-hop, it's like the abandonment of the father. But that's why Volcano follows Iris on the album.
Okay.
The other thing, of course, is when your mother departs from you at puberty, just as you're discovering girls, it sort of changed my view, you know, changed me in so many ways. The way I deal with women, the way I deal with girls, even now. And because you have these, you know, three men sitting there in Cedarwood Road, shouting at each other a lot of the time. I was definitely the biggest asshole, but because I didn't want to do all this shit that I had to do, and so I apologize to my father and my brother for that. But it was that. It was rage. And
Shoulders up.
And I was wondering, I still have that. Why do I still have that? Yeah. And so I traced it back to that, and you know. So part of you never leaves the street you grew up in. And it's a beautiful street with beautiful people. I'm still best friends with a lot of people on Cedarwood Road. Yeah. But, you know, I still have that attitude that you walk out the door with. I have it now, and there's nobody waiting for me to smack my head in.
Which did you have?
Well, maybe.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Which did you have more of in the early days, Edge? Was it self-belief or talent? Can you quantify?
Oh, I think at the beginning we had very little real reason or evidence to suggest that we could become what we ended up becoming.
Yeah.
And yet it didn't seem to matter. I remember Adam, age 17, you know, saying, we'll be as big as the Beatles. And we were like...
That's very confident.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't, you know, at that point, I thought he was a bit mad. But as time went on then, our confidence grew, and we started to see that whatever weaknesses we had were actually strengths in disguise. And I think we just... The reason why it's gone as it has, I think, is an observance, a long observance in the same direction, which is a quote, where we are dogged.
Yeah.
We go after something. We really go after it. And I think this album is a good example. We wanted songs. We wanted songs that would stand up against the best songs we've ever written. And it took us a lot longer than we thought to get there. Kind of humblingly long. But we did get there in the end.
It's funny, just getting on this show, you know, I've told this before, I used to haunt Gay Byrne. I used to go up in the bus and I'd wait for him outside his house and stupid stuff like that. But when we heard somebody, sort of high-profile director type was in the neighbourhood and had heard that we wrote our own songs, and we're like 17 or 18, and he was coming around to listen to those songs, and we had been fighting with each other all day on the start, how to start the song, how to end the song, what was the middle of the song, the usual
this is
sort of...
Mount Temple.
Yeah, this is Mount Temple.
Back, right, okay.
Really,
early
way back.
Yeah,
so there's a knock on the door, and we're like, wow, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do. Open the door. Open the door. He comes in. Oh, I've heard you write your own songs. Would you play one for me? I might be able to get you on the television.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, this is one of ours called Glad to See You Go. And we played a Ramone song. And he goes, that's very good. That's good. Did you write that? Yeah. And then we came on his television show here called Young Line, I think it was, and we played one of our own songs and nobody noticed. But so it's not just self-belief.
Yeah.
There's a bit of
chancing
the
your
chancer
arm.
in it.
Would you like to hear the boys playing a song? I mean, as you mentioned the Ramones, let's take it.
Well, this is it.
Let's take it. Thank you, Vince.
And I got to say that I got to tell this to Joey Ramone.
Did you?
Yeah, I told him, and he was like, wow.
Was he up for that?
it's really cool.
He really laughed.
And
Do you want to introduce this, Bono?
yeah, this is The Miracle of Joey Ramone. I want to dedicate it to Simon Carmody, who's been wearing a Ramones T-shirt pretty much every single day of his life.
The same one.
And a great inspiration.
The same one.
Okay.
Chasing down the days of fear, chasing down a dream before it disappears, aching to be somewhere near. Your voice is all I heard. I was shaking from the storm in me, haunted by the specters that we had to see. Yeah, I wanted to be the melody above the noise, above the hurt. I was young, not dumb, just wishing to be blinded by you, brand new, and we were pilgrims on our way. I woke up at the moment when the miracle occurred, heard a song that made some sense out of the world. Everything I ever lost now has been returned, and the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Language so we cannot communicate, religion so I can love and hate, music so I can exaggerate my pain, give it a name. I was young, not dumb, just wishing to be blinded by you, brand new, and we were pilgrims on our way. I woke up at the moment when the miracle occurred, heard a song that made some sense out of the world. Everything I ever lost now has been returned in the most beautiful sound I ever heard. I get so many things I don't deserve. All the stolen voices will someday be returned. The most beautiful sound I ever heard.
Fun?
Thanks for that. Did you enjoy that, Edge?
Yeah, I did. That was fun.
Bono, you know, there's 200 very happy people out there. It's good to be home.
You know what? It's a funny thing. You know, to walk up Grafton Street and see all those buskers and think, I'm not sure we could do that. To eventually get to a place where we can.
Yeah. I'll take that. You don't need it. I don't think you need that anymore. I'm not going to sing, but I'll take okay, don't have to put a dampener, but we need to talk about iTunes for a second.
What's the dampener about?
No, but just to, well done, that's what they're saying.
Thank
well
you,
done.
thank you.
But obviously, the iTunes scenario was an enormous success in terms of downloading that album to all those people. You want my water?
We share everything.
You can have some. Great. How were you with the reaction to how it all went down, the iTunes
What
download?
reaction?
Well, what do you tell me? What did you think of the reaction?
I mean, look, if there was any bad reaction, we'd definitely have heard about it on the
And
internet.
you didn't hear anything. yeah.
Don't know what you're on about.
But you... That's very bold. That's very bold.
Look, here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you go into your local bar,
Yeah.
and you know, just check this, because years ago, you go into the gents. This may not be true of the ladies, but it's certainly true of the gents. You go into the stalls, close the door. There's all manner of invective and expletives and graffiti and pictures that you don't ever want to see again. And if you go there now, there's none of it. There's nothing on the walls.
Where are they gone?
They're in the blogosphere now. And, you know, you can just, you can avoid it.
Do you let any of it in? The Bono bashing?
You know, I've got an umbrella, and when the shitstorm happens, I just put up my umbrella.
Oh, good. I like that.
No, because, you know, you must like it. It's that thing, you know, we must like an argument. I like it, and it's... Irish people don't mind an argument. We don't mind stirring things up. And what is the point in being in a band like you two if you can't stir it up? And the truth of it is the music business, the model was broken. And the charts don't really reflect what people are listening to. They reflect what good people who are still paying for music. And they're the people also who support iTunes.
Yeah.
So the idea that Apple would reward people who actually pay for music with a gift from them, not from us, was great. And we got to get it out there. I think there's like, whatever it is 80, I think it's nearly 100 million now. People have checked out one or two of the tracks, and it's nearly 30 have actually taken the whole album.
That's a million.
I was going to say. Thanks. I'm glad you're here.
What's a few notes between friends? Okay, it's 30 million people.
Thanks for the clarification.
Just 30 million people have taken this into their hearts, and what took us 30 years for the Joshua Tree, we did in 3 weeks. Yeah. With Songs of Innocence.
I was struck by something you said at the time, a few weeks ago. I mean, it's a testament to the songs that the audience was singing the chorus there without any prompting. But you were saying that you were worried about the album not getting the coverage or the getting out there. You said there's a lot of noise. Was that just sensing a little vulnerability, or were you?
It's just the posters that Edge was talking about. You know, one of the posters that his mother, when she ran the getaway car. We had this, and it's perhaps a silly thing to have posted all over the hoardings of Dublin, but it said, this is like 1978.
Yes.
You too can happen to anyone. Yeah. And we've always been about that, trying to communicate, trying to find a new audience. We've got a whole new younger audience now.
For sure.
Of people. Thanks, and
Thanks,
Guinness as well. Thank you.
Yeah. We can fix that too. Make that 3. No, not for everyone in the audience. There's always the one. Okay, I want to ask you something about both your fathers were tenors. Were they tenor voices?
Yeah, definitely, and opera fans.
Yeah.
And they would both end up coming out on the road, which they both loved to do. And on occasion, you'd discover they'd gone out on a big night, and we'd hear the stories of them singing arias in the back streets of New York, wherever we were together. So they shared a lot of similar interests in music.
So if we fast forward then to the next generation, your boys. I've heard talk that I think, Ed, you think that your sons were switched at birth. that there's
He's got a son that writes lyrics, and I've got a son who plays guitar and disappears into his bedroom for most things. So they reckon that we got the Edge, and they got Bono.
They got Bono. Okay.
But actually, the two dads, Garvin, who's both Edge's parents were Welsh, you know, just love singing. My dad, and that bonded them together. Just to tell you a funny thing that I think Irish people will really might, you know, find fun is we go to Italy to Pavarotti as a big event, and these are the tenors. Now, my dad used to say to me, "You're a baritone who thinks he's a tenor," and you know, this was his shtick. So to meet the great tenor was everything. But Diana, Princess of Wales, was there. And Edge comes up to me and he says, "Would your dad like to go meet, you know, Diana?" Now, I knew the answer to the question, but I went up to my dad, to Bob, and I said, "Listen, you wouldn't like to meet the Princess of Wales, would you?" "I can't believe you'd even ask that question. I mean, what would I want to meet royals for? What have the royals ever done for us? They're tied with their board this," and he goes on and on and on like this. And I said, "Well, it's okay, I just asking, I kind of knew." And so we forget about it, and we're in the dressing room, there's a knock on the door. Door opens, and this beautiful vision in a canary yellow dress, beautiful, she was tall, just very beautiful, walks in, and my dad turns around. He's the first person she meets. She goes, "Hello, who are you?" He's Bob Hewson. I'm his dad. And she goes, "That's fine, you must be," and they'd have just two, and he walks away. So I go after him, I says, "How was that?" "That is an extraordinary woman, I must say that. She is really something else." And I just thought, you know, there it is, 700 years.
God, in one encounter.
In one handshake.
That is funny. Because I don't know if you're in danger of this, but is there an element of your Eve Hewson's dad these days? You know, Edge is nodding, going, "Well, I'm afraid it's looking like that." I mean, she's doing all right for herself.
There's more billboards around New York with Eve on it right now than her dad.
Dear, no. How's that sitting with you?
She's incredible, and she's very smart, very hard-working. And, you know, Ali has been, you know, sort of really trying to be helpful and ask her things like, you know, have you got the right agent? And she goes, "Oh, I'll sort out that." And then she comes back and she says, "I think I need a manager as well. I'm not getting any parts." And her mother says, "But I mean, a manager as well as an agent, then, I mean, they'd have another percentage of that." She says, "Yeah, percentage of nothing. No, I need a manager." So she says, "Well, do you need any help?" No, I'll find it." She comes back, "I got a manager. This great Cynthia. She's fantastic." What has she done, Eve? What's her experience? Why do you think she can manage you?" "She manages Brad Pitt."
Oh, okay.
And so Eve's a dedicated actor, and she deals much better with rejection than I. But if you see the Nick, it's pretty incredible. Steven Soderbergh's a genius, and I've just been told I can watch it up to episode 7.
And then
apparently stuff goes down that I can't see.
Would you have a problem watching that stuff?
Yes.
Why?
Someone might get a thump.
The rage comes out again.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's the album. We were talking about this before the show started. Look at this. Look at the vinyl on that, lads.
Oh.
Isn't that something? And I thought you might sign. There's somebody in the audience whose eyes have popped out of his head from the moment you guys have sat down, and I'd like you to sign this for him. I don't know who he is, but he's been sitting there. You're going to sing. Would you maybe talk to us about the next song you're going to sing? Second song, lads.
Do you know his name?
What's your name? Yeah. What?
Paul Fox.
Paul. He just looks like the happiest man in Ireland sitting there. I don't know. We'll sort that out. Okay. We'll sort that out. Thanks very much. We'll pass that on. Congratulations. Would you introduce the next song for us?
This is well, you introduce it.
This is a song that we worked very hard on. It took a while to get. It's called Every Breaking Wave. I think it's one of the best songs we've ever written.
Okay. What a pleasure it's been to see you. Okay. Thank you so much, as always. Love it. Make your way over. Okay. There they go. U2's new album. It's called Songs of Innocence. It's currently on release. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having them on the show, and I think it's... you can tell just listening to the audience, and there's a great vibe in here tonight, I can tell you, as the boys take their place. You ready to go, lads?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Bono and The Edge.
Every breaking wave on the shore tells the next one there'll be one more. And every gambler knows that to lose is what you're really there for. Summer hours fearlessness. Now I'm speaking to an answer phone, like every falling leaf on the breeze. Winter wouldn't leave it alone. If you go your way and I go mine, are we so helpless against the tide? Baby, every dark on the street knows that we're in love with to feel. Are we ready to be swept off our feet and stop chasing every breaking wave? And every sailor knows that the sea is a friend-made enemy. Every shipwrecked soul knows what it is to live without intimacy. I thought I had the captain's voice. It's hard to listen while you preach, like every broken wave on the shore. This is as far as I could reach. See nothing but other rocks, drowning is no sin. You know where my heart is, the same place yours has been. We know that we fear to win, so we end before we begin. Before we begin, if you come your way and I go mine, are we so helpless against the tide? Baby, every dog on the street knows that we're in love with defeat. Are we ready to be swept